Today we're talking about a man who arguably did more to build the British Empire than any single explorer or general. And the craziest part? He did it all from his study. He was the ultimate salesman for a global vision, and his most powerful weapon was information.
So how on earth did he pull it off? First up, we're going to see how he was basically the 16th century's first influencer. Then we'll dive into the massive imperial vision he was selling to anyone who would listen. After that, we'll check out his masterpiece, a collection of travel stories that made it all feel so real. We'll even look in his specific playbook for colonizing America, before unpacking the huge legacy he left behind.
You know, when you picture the age of exploration, you probably imagine guys in big hats on the decks of ships, right? Adventurers on the high seas. Well, this story is about a completely different kind of pioneer.
It really does sound like a trick question, doesn't it? Our minds jump to guys like Sir Francis Drake or Sir Walter Raleigh, the ones who actually went out there. But the man who arguably provided the intellectual and moral fuel for their voyages was someone who much preferred libraries to longships.
And the answer is Richard Hakluyt. Think of him as a geographer, a historian, and most importantly, one of the most effective promoters in English history. See, his battlefield wasn't the open ocean, it was the world of ideas, politics, and pure persuasion. So here's the crucial thing to understand. Hakluyt's job wasn't to discover new lands himself. Nope. His role was to convince the people with power and money, we're talking the Queen, wealthy investors, the public, that overseas expansion was absolutely essential for England's future. He was, for all intents and purposes, the chief marketing officer for an empire.
But make no mistake, Hakluyt wasn't just some dusty academic collecting maps. No. He was an architect, building a national ambition, a huge, grand vision for what England could be. This right here was his core belief. You have to remember, back in the late 1500s, England was kind of nervously looking over its shoulder at Spain, which was getting fantastically rich from its American colonies. Hakluyt's argument was simple. To compete, to survive, to prosper, England had to get in the game. It had to build its own overseas empire.
And his method? Well, it's fascinating. The man was a master of information warfare. He wasn't just a collector. He was a curator. He took these raw stories from sailors and merchants, and then he would edit them. He'd cut out the disastrous parts, amplify the successes, and make absolutely sure to highlight the immense profits to be made. In short, he was creating the ultimate highlight reel for English exploration.
Okay, so to sell this incredible dream, Hakluyt knew he needed a product, something tangible. And what he created was, honestly, one of the most influential books of the entire era. A massive, compelling collection of what he presented as proof that England was destined for greatness. I mean, just listen to that title. It's epic, right? And that was exactly the point. This thing wasn't just a book, it was a national epic in prose. He pulled together every single scrap of information he could get his hands on. We're talking personal journals, official letters, ship's logs, you name it, from English adventurers all over the world.
And the sheer size of this thing was part of the message. The very first edition had over 50 different accounts. It was like he was holding it up to his readers and saying, look at all the stuff we've already done. Now just imagine what we can do next. It was the proof of concept for a global empire.
And this chart gives you a pretty good idea of just how big his vision was. By pulling all these stories together, he was basically drawing a blueprint for England's global ambitions. He wasn't just focused on North America. Oh no. He had accounts from the Caribbean, from Africa, from all the way over in Asia. He was laying out the entire world as a potential stage for English enterprise.
But here's the thing. Hakluyt wasn't just a historian looking at the past. He was a total strategist, always looking to the future. And he put it all down in a very specific and very confidential proposal that outlined exactly what England's next move should be.
And that proposal was this document right here. The title basically just means an argument for colonizing the West. This was his secret playbook. And this wasn't some pamphlet for the masses. This was an eyes-only, direct pitch to the Queen and her top advisors, laying out the strategic case for setting up permanent colonies in North America. And his plan was beautiful in its simplicity. Really, he boiled it all down to 4 key points. First up, money. Secure resources, open up new trade routes, make England rich. Second, geopolitics. He wanted to stick it to the Spanish Empire by building an English base right in their backyard. Third, ideology. A huge part of the pitch was about spreading Protestant Christianity. And finally, the endgame.
build permanent settlements. This wasn't about a smash and grab. It was a comprehensive, compelling business plan for colonization.
So you have to ask, what was the upshot of all this? Did all this writing and promoting actually work? Well, yeah. And his arguments didn't just convince people back then. Their impact would literally change the map of the world for centuries to come.
In the end, Hakluyt's work became the foundational story for English expansion, the narrative everyone bought into. He didn't just record history, you see. He actively shaped it. He articulated a vision that directly inspired the colonization of places like Virginia. He gave England the arguments, the motivation, and the roadmap that helped transform it into a global maritime power and set the course for the British Empire.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? Richard Hakluyt's story is this incredible reminder that empires aren't just built with ships and swords. They're built with words, with ideas. It really makes you stop and think. How much of the world we live in today was first dreamed up not by a soldier or a king, but by a masterful storyteller who knew exactly how to sell